Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick, and in this video we're going to be comparing the Saucony Kinvara Pro and the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. So the Speed 3 and Kinvara Pro are both plated shoes within Saucony's lineup. They're geared more towards training and sit beneath things like the Endorphin Elite and Endorphin Pro 3 racing shoes within Saucony's lineup, but although they have quite a lot of similarities on paper, they are very different shoes and geared towards different purposes, so we thought it was worth comparing them to try and explain what we think those purposes are. Speed 3 is the cheaper shoe. It costs £165 or $170, whereas the Kinvara Pro is £200 or $180. Speed 3 is lighter, it's 240 grams or 8.5 ounces in my UK size 9, whereas the Kinvara Pro is 303 grams or 10.7 ounces in the same size. They both have an 8mm drop, but the Kinvara Pro stack height is 42mm at the heel and 34 at the forefoot, whereas the Speed 3 is a little bit lower at 36 at the heel and 28mm at the forefoot. So they've both got the Speedroll rocker geometry from Saucony, and they both use the brand PWRRUN-based PWRRRUN PB foam, but there are a lot of differences, like I say, between them. Speed 3 has been around a while now as the training partner shoe to the Endorphin Pro. It's got a lightweight mesh upper above a full PWRRRUN PB midsole, through which runs a nylon plate with little winglets on the side to create some stability. And like I say, it has Saucony Speedroll geometry. Got a rubber outsole with fairly limited coverage, but all the key impact areas are covered there. Fair bit of exposed foam in the middle, but we've not seen any problems with durability with this shoe. The Kinvara Pro has a slightly more built-up upper than the Speed 3, a bit more padding around the heel and a lot more structure at the heel in terms of a big internal heel counter that helps to create stability with that higher stack. Got a dual density midsole. The top layer is PWRRRUN PB, and then the bottom layer is Saucony's PWRRRUN foam. It also has a PWRRRUN Plus insole, so you've got a lot of different types of PWRRRUN going on in this shoe. The PWRRRUN PB is the best stuff, the bounciest, the lightest foam. Then you've got the firmer, more stable PWRRRUN foam on the bottom of the shoe. Through the middle of the shoe runs a 3/4 length carbon plate, and like I say, it's got that Speedroll geometry. It doesn't have an outsole, the Kinvara Pro. It just has that PWRRRUN foam molded to make sure you get a good enough grip, but there's no actual rubber there on the outsole. The Kinvara Pro is also a really wide shoe, which again helps with stability. The Speed 3 has been widened compared to previous versions of the shoe to help with stability, but it is a nimbler, thinner shoe than the Kinvara Pro still.
The fit for me in the Saucony Kinvara Pro, I'm a size 8 UK. This is a size 8 shoe in the UK, and it fits perfectly for me. There's plenty of room in the forefoot. I definitely wouldn't size up or down in the shoe. It felt fine for me, and no issues at all. The Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, again, size 8. I'm a size 8 in the UK. It's fine. I definitely wouldn't size up or down in the shoe, but I would say that if you're used to using the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2, it's a little bit more forgiving than that. So it does feel like there's a bit more space in the top of the shoe, and some people have mentioned that there's probably been a little bit too much space and it doesn't feel as secure as you'd like it. But for me, it feels fine and no issues at all.
So fit then, I ran a UK 8.5 in both of these shoes, and I think I would go true to size in both of them. That's what I'd recommend. I think they've both got plenty of room lengthwise in the toe box. If anything, I'm going to draw distinctions on the fit. I would say that the Kinvara Pro feel a little bit more snug, a little bit more structured. There's a little bit less room in that toe box, a bit more wiggle room in the Speed 3. So if you've got kind of wider feet, I think there's a bit more flex in the uppers and just a bit more room in general. I think particularly across the top of the toes, the uppers flex better in the Speed 3 than in the Kinvara Pro, though I would go true to size. I haven't had any problems with each of them, just a bit more snug in the Kinvara Pro overall, I would say.
So on the fit of the two shoes, I am happy in my normal size with both shoes. These are both UK 9s, which equates to US 10s with Saucony, and I've got the right amount of room in the toe box. Do have some problems with heel slippage on the Endorphin Speed 3, which, like I say, it's quite a wide shoe, and my narrow foot seems to struggle with it a bit. You can see how tight I've pulled the laces there. Heel locking the shoe does help with the heel rub, but in general it's got quite a wide fit. I actually prefer the fit of the Kinvara Pro, which, even though it is a big wide shoe itself, the upper seems a bit more dialed into me, and I find I can get a more secure fit with it. Overall, I would say though, go with your normal running shoe size with both of these shoes, especially because on length they're spot on for me.
So I've just done the side-by-side mile in the Kinvara Pro and the Speed 3. I've got one on each foot now. The big difference that you can feel here, I think uppers slightly more hugging, a little bit less room overall, but the major difference here is in the ride and how they feel. The minute you put them on the foot, you could really feel that Kinvara Pro high stack, which kind of sits a big volume of foam under the foot. The Speed 3 by comparison feel much lower to the ground. They feel flatter to the ground. There's much more connection to the ground. than you're going to get with the Kinvara Pro. Now, what's really interesting is as you run in them, I think you feel the plate and the foam connecting and working to much better effect than in the Speed 3 than you do in the Kinvara Pro. As I'm running around here, I'm really kind of reaching to see where that plate is. It's not really engaging, and all I'm getting is what is sort of, I don't know, it's quite a squishy, quite a soft, quite a sluggish response basically from the Kinvara Pro, which just feel bigger, more voluminous and just softer and a bit more squishy, and to me it's just a bit more laboured overall because of that. Whereas the Speed 3, you know, the things that we really loved about them is they gave a lot of cushion and protection, but they were light and they were nimble, they were agile, but they were kind of punchy as well. You know, they really worked when you upped the pace, and they gave something back that really helped with that. You felt like this was a shoe that you could go happy cruising in, but when you wanted to tick it up, they would work really well as well. The Kinvara Pro, it's a really mixed kind of bag. It's such a weird one to position. They just don't feel quite as punchy. You don't get quite that kind of roll through. I don't think the Speedroll geometry or that Speedroll kind of system is as pronounced either in the Kinvara Pro. And as a result, yes, you're getting more cushion. Yes, you're getting more protection. I don't think the way I run, you get more bounce and more kind of forward propulsion or any of the kind of efficiency saving. I think I'm working a little bit harder overall to make these shoes tick over. You know, there are other trade-offs to having that hulking great stack of foam, which is I also think that they feel heavier on the foot, and they're not as stable, I don't think, as the Endorphin Speed 3. I think particularly around the heel area, I get a little bit of a wobble out, which I don't get on the Speed 3, which is, you know, I think just nice and stable and does a great job for me. And overall, you know, I'm a big fan of the Speed 3. I ran a long way in them along the Danube, 1,800 miles in total, and they did a phenomenal job across a range of paces, and they're a favourite of mine. I thought the Kinvara Pro might step up and do something a bit different and kind of replace them. You know, when you see a big stack of foam, you think I'm going to get a plate with that. You're thinking, actually, is this going to be nice and springy and bouncy and give you the efficiency gains? But overall, it just hasn't really offered that. And I know some of the other run testers have really not gotten on with the Kinvara Pro. For me, it's still a bit of a mix, but I can't quite work out whether I like it or I don't. I'm sort of somewhere in the middle. I don't like the price, I know that much. I'm not sure if it's bringing anything new over the Speed, but more on that in the verdict.
So on the run test, the Speed 3 is a shoe we've had for a while, and it's just a great shoe. It continues the Endorphin Speed's fine heritage of being an incredible all-rounder. It really is great for pretty much everything. It's very comfortable. I've gone down to very slow recovery paces in this shoe and enjoyed it, and also gone up to race pace and done speed sessions at the track in it, and it does all of those things really very well. It's got a lightweight, poppy ride. It's not exceptionally squishy and bouncy, even though it's got the Puma foams there. It's more a very smooth shoe with a nice bit of punch off the plate, and it just feels great on every kind of run. Like, it's really fast, really nimble, but nice and comfortable. Like I say, outsole can be a little bit slick at times, but it's never been a huge problem for me, even when running in pouring rain. It's just not as good as some of the other options on the market. Kinvara Pro, contrast, is a really big shoe. It's a very noticeably large shoe. You've got a little bit of the rocker there, but it's harder to notice that. And I also find it harder to notice the plate with this shoe. Like, I've taken it down to some fast paces, like mid 330 per K pace, that kind of thing. And although it feels okay, it doesn't really feel that bouncy. It's got a much duller feeling underfoot from the combination of the foams, and I just don't really feel like I'm getting a lot from the plate in the shoe, with its size kind of cancelling it out for me, and just, yeah, I struggle to feel it with all this foam underfoot. It's a lot less grounded than the Endorphin Speed 3, which has got a pretty high stack itself, but it certainly feels a lot more natural underfoot in a way. It is a comfortable shoe and it is stable, but it's pretty soft. It's not exceptionally soft, I say that. It's not overly soft, which is a good thing, but at the same time, it's not very soft, which is also a little bit of a bad thing. It's not very comfortable. I think it's okay. I've got no problem going out and cruising long runs in this shoe, but it's not a shoe I really look forward to putting on or really feel like it's exceptionally comfortable. And at the same time, I don't really think it adds a lot of punch to any kind of fast runs you're going to do. It never felt that versatile to me, I'll put it that way. Like, it's a shoe that I always found okay for rolling around easy runs. It does have a bit of a rocker there, and that rocker is noticeable at pace as well. But it's not a shoe I felt very comfortable pushing too fast paces in, just because of the size and I say the slightly dull feeling underfoot from the mix of foams you had here. Say on easy runs, it's probably a touch more stable than the Endorphin Speed 3, especially at the heel as a heel striker. But I haven't had a big problem with stability in the Endorphin Speed 3 myself. I know that some others do, in which case I think you are going to get a slightly more stable experience from the Kinvara Pro if you're a heel striker. But, you know, that comes at a big cost in terms of other things.
So this is a pretty easy versus for us to do. The Saucony Kinvara Pro is a shoe that is sort of came out of nowhere, and I'm not really sure what it's for. I've done about 40k in the Kinvara Pro so far, and I'm not really sure what the shoe is designed for. It's a very clunky shoe. There's a lot of shoe there, But unlike something like the Fuel Cell SC Trainer and Trainer V2, where you do have a lot of shoe there, but there's also a lot of bounce, a lot of cushioning, a lot of springiness. There's none of that in the Saucony Kinvara Pro. It just feels very big, cumbersome, clog-like and dense. And I don't really get any bounce from it. I don't really feel like there's any softness or impact minimization, anything like that. I just don't get anything from the Saucony Kinvara Pro. I've done easy runs in this, and I didn't really find it was a nice shoe for an easy run. It felt like it was slowing me down even more as I was running, just because there was no nice turnover in it. And I definitely didn't feel anything from the foam, the dual density foam, or the plate in it as well. So didn't really get anything on easy runs from it. It just felt like it was just making life a bit harder for me. I also raced in this shoe. I did the Brighton Phoenix 10K in it last week. I wasn't running at my full pace because I'm just coming off injury, but I was picking up, or trying to pick up the pace in this shoe, and it really didn't want to do it. It just, there's not a nice turnover in this shoe for running at speed. It just feels like you're carrying a really heavy thing on your foot, and that really firm midsole just deadens it when you land. It doesn't really give you any sort of responsiveness at all when you're trying to pick up speed in it. So I haven't really got on very well with the Saucony Kinvara Pro. I'll keep using it to see if it gets a little bit softer as I use it, but at 40k you kind of hope that you would notice some benefits from it. So it still feels almost new to me, really, really hard. The Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is one of our favourite daily trainers for the past year or so, and including the older versions of it. And it is fantastic. It's still probably the best, up there with Hoka Mach 5 as a really versatile shoe. You can do easy runs in this, you can do daily training sessions, you can race in it. It's just fantastic. It really hasn't been beaten yet. The only thing that's come close, and in some ways does beat it because it hasn't got a plate, it's a bit more natural, is the Hoka Mach 5. But really, if you want that feeling of a super daily shoe that can do it all, you might be the sort of person who just wants to buy one pair of trainers to do everything from your easy runs all the way up to race day. It can do that. It's fantastic. It's really, really versatile. So it's still one of the best out there, if not the best, and I still love running in this shoe. So my verdict on these two shoes is probably pretty easy to guess. The Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is still one of, if not the best daily versatile trainer out there. It's fast, it's bouncy, it's responsive, it's cushioned enough. It's got everything you need from a do-it-all shoe. If you had to get one shoe and you wanted it to do everything, you couldn't buy any more shoes, Speed would be right up there. It's just really comfortable and great, and yeah, it's very few shoes come close to it. Saucony Kinvara Pro is not a versatile daily trainer. I'm not entirely sure what the benefit is of this shoe. It seems like a strange one. It's definitely nothing like the Kinvara, but the only thing I can think of is that it is, because it's quite dense and there's a lot of midsole foam in there, it feels quite stable. It might be that if you're a heavier runner, you might get the benefits from it that I'm not getting because I'm quite light. But really, it's just not giving me anything back. So for the price, in the UK, this is £200. The Saucony Endorphin Speed is significantly less than that. It's just a no-brainer. I would just always go for the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3.
So both of these shoes are built to be plated, versatile trainers that you could also race in, I'd say. They do it in different ways. I think they probably have quite different runners in mind. I'm much more of an Endorphin Speed 3 runner myself. I like how light and nimble it feels. It still feels very comfortable to me. It's stable enough for me for easy runs, very relaxed runs, and then it's a lot lighter and faster than the Kinvara Pro when it comes to the speed sessions or races you might want to do in it. I find that I do notice the bounce from the plate in the shoe and the more pop you get from the foams in it compared to the Kinvara Pro. And just all round, I think I enjoy it a lot more on any kind of run. However, that's probably not going to be the case for everyone, I guess, which is why the Kinvara Pro exists. I think if you're someone who does find Endorphin Speed a bit unstable or not protective enough, the Kinvara Pro, it doesn't really do a good job of being the Speed 3, but more cushioned. I think it's a different shoe entirely, but it is a more stable, robust shoe on underfoot, and it's probably a more comfortable shoe in that vein as well because it does have the extra foam underfoot. But I don't know, it loses a lot of speed for me. There is a rocker, there is a plate there, but those really don't come across in the same way as on the Speed 3. This feels a lot more like a generic cushion shoe, and that's the other problem I probably have with the Kinvara Pro, is that it's really expensive. And I think you can get cushion shoes that do a very similar job to this for a lot less, and they're just more normal shoes, whereas the Speed 3 is expensive, but it lives up to its price tag. It does an awful lot. There's not a lot of shoes like this on the market, and it is a super trainer that really feels like a super trainer. The Kinvara Pro feels more like a traditional shoe to me, and I'd certainly go for the Speed 3 myself. I think it's a fantastic shoe. The Kinvara Pro is just an okay shoe, and it's got the price tag of a fantastic shoe.
So my verdict on this head-to-head then, I'm kind of biased. I love the Speed 3. It was a long favourite. I managed to break a world record in them, so it's going to take a good shoe to dislodge them as one of my kind of favourites. But the Kinvara Pro had a lot, I think, on paper that sort of suggested they might. Fact is, I don't think they quite do it. For me, the Speed 3 still offers the best versatility. It's good at easy paces. It can really cope, I think, when you get faster. And it will do lots and lots of workouts. This is one shoe. If you could only ever have one shoe in a rotation, this shoe would do a lot of what you needed it to do. I think you can do training up to racing in it, and it works an absolute treat. It's lighter, it's more agile. I think it's more stable. I feel more racy in it. I can rock back and go slow in it. The Kinvara Pro, I just feel like they're a little bit sluggish. They're a little bit ponderous. There's not quite the energy. There's more weight in them. I do feel they also feel a bit more constrictive overall. So if you like that kind of fit, that might be a thing for you. The only place that I can see really for the Kinvara Pro 3 for me is if you want something that's got quite a big high stack of protective cushioning and all-round kind of plushness for long, easy cruising miles, then I think this has a place potentially. There are other shoes out there though, I think do that probably just as well for a lower price. But to put that into context, I'm genuinely thinking about the Kinvara Pro versus the Speed 3 for my upcoming 100-mile ultra around the Berlin Wall in about 2 weeks' time. I still haven't decided on which shoe I'm going to use. I know the Speed 3 can do a job for me. I think the Kinvara Pro might offer just a little bit more protection later into those miles. And that's the kind of thing that I think they might be able to do a good job for. For anything shorter than that distance though, I just think there are better shoes out there. And if I'm picking one out of these two, it's got to be the Speed 3, not least because you can get them for a very, very good price, and they do pretty much everything you need them to do.
So that's our comparison of the Saucony Kinvara Pro and Speed 3 shoes. Hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer how they sit within Saucony's lineup. Please do let us know in the comments below what you think of them. Do like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.